You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Everybody, welcome to Minute To Skim It, where we're going to tell you about all the comic books releasing this week that we wanted to read. So it's the most of the number ones this week, and then, we can't help ourselves. We still want to read our favorite books. So,
well, and there's some books that you feel like you've read the first 3 issues, and it's a weekly book, so you might as well finish reading it, even though you're pretty much over it. And then the ending of the book happens, and you're like, yeah, I'm over it.
Yeah, over it. Well, that'll happen. A reminder to everybody, thank you so much for being on. If you hit that subscribe button, we'd be super thankful. If you give us some hearts and some thumbs up, all the producers know they're going to be doing a great job. And
I'm also okay if you do an Orange Cassidy thumbs up where it's just like, you don't have to hit it super hard. You can just kind of.
Yeah, that works too.
So, yeah.
And Spilios is in. Hello,
I got one for John this week. There's one that is, so him. Okay. Like, John, the book that I'm thinking about, like, if you were coming to my shop, I would not let you through the door without handing you this book because it's so you. Yeah. So we should probably get into it.
All right.
Okay. This is not the book I was just building up, but this book is very good if it's not getting more and more twisted and more messed up, and Dan Panosian isn't making me feel more and more things. Alice has experienced what we would call on the internet an SA in issue 3, and is now with child.
Okay.
And has completely broken and is basically living full-time in Neverland, where she is the Queen of Hearts. This issue, you start to see some of the characters at play behind that assault and behind the pregnancy and what people are trying to, people who are trying to make a play for her kid. And at the same time, like, she has no idea this is happening in the real world because in Neverland, like, the Cheshire Cat, who she has banished, is like a doctor, and she needs a doctor, and like, there's a lot of stuff that just makes this book play on a couple of levels, and it really is as though you're experiencing your life through a hallucinogenic break. And you can feel for Alice, and you can feel for how her family and friends feel for her. And it really is just a beautifully painful book.
Amazon's attack. Okay, so for y'all who were lucky enough to find yourself a copy of Wonder Woman #1 4 weeks ago, it is tied directly to the events that were in that book, in which because of circumstances, the world now believes that the Amazons are horrible and have killed people. And so now they have kind of declared martial law up to and including killing Amazons. And so that is really, really a horrible place for them to be in. Now, this draws in more characters that are part of that world, including Yara Flora there on the bottom. And I'm never going to remember this nice lady's name on the left-hand side that could kick your butt with her one pinky. So this kind of like draws in the rest of these characters as the heat rises on this event, and it's getting more and more terrible. I mean, if you guys like kind of like events that tie to other things like I do, I'm going to keep following this train, and it's really beautiful art.
Yeah, this is the first DC book I've had on my pull list in a while. I did decide to go ahead and add. Last night we were talking. I called my LCS this morning. I was like, "Hey, I was that jerk. Like I always say, pre-order, pre-order, pre-order." Well, I pre-ordered this one. I didn't pre-order another one, but I called and was like, "Hey, if you have a copy, I want to add it to my pull list of another DC book we're gonna go over later." So, very excited for DC this week from me.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say a couple cool things about this one. I just want to say mad props to our friends at Marvel for giving us a Captain Marvel book near the release of a Marvel film that stars the character in it, which makes me so happy. And in this case, the character has a new costume, so you're going to see a new costume on her. And the character's like facial design feels very new to me. She looks 100% beautiful, like stunningly beautiful. And what more can I tell you without messing things up for you in this book? That's probably all you really need. It's not your typical like, oh great, we just relaunched another Captain Marvel. To have a reason to have Captain Marvel, there's a new character that shows up in this one that can like draw power from really anybody or anything, but looks like she's using portals to jump through and grab onto specific heroes. And in this case you've got Carol who can like super power up with binary power, and that's okay with this bad guy. They would like to take all that power. It also has another version of Captain Marvel, Shenfell, is that right? Who something very bad happens to when confronting this new bad guy. So great book. Good place to jump on, especially if you like really gorgeous art.
Okay, so John, it's this one. Okay. Baby Driver meets Christine meets Lucifer.
Okay.
So the book opens with an assault on what I believe was an angel by a bunch of demons. And then you never address it again. And you immediately jump to the middle of a bank heist. Okay. With this car as the rabbit car in the bank heist. Except that this car is not a regular car. This car is stolen from, if there was one group or organization on the planet or in all the dimensions you wouldn't want to steal a car from, that's the person / thing / entity / no longer welcome in heaven thing that they stole it from. So this car is crazy.
They stole it from the ghost of John Wick?
John Wick, even the ghost of John Wick would be scared of this thing.
Oh, okay.
Little Nicky's father from the movie Little Nicky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They stole his Camaro. And there's like big scenes like the police scene in the Blues Brothers, plus this car like has special powers. And the guy who's driving the car doesn't get it. But his girlfriend does. And she might be part of the organization from whom he has stolen the car. Drive Like Hell is an appropriate example because this book moves at such a pace. It's very, very fast moving, very, very very, very active, and it just doesn't stop start to finish. Like there's no slowing down. There's no wait. What happened? Who is that person? Why are we doing? Nope, too late. Why is there a hole in that person's face? Like it's gory, it's bloody, it's wild. There are demons, there are angels, there are schmucks. It's at one point I'm gonna do a little bit of a spoiler here. At one point, one of the demons possesses a cop, and it looks like the stepdad from that movie Onward.
Oh my gosh.
Not like as a horse, but just in the face, kind of.
Okay.
Like, it's pretty great. Like, everything about this book just screams, make this into a movie. Also, Alex Cormack and Rich Duke are just crushing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so excited to read this book. Okay, so if you guys got Distillery's kind of like, I would call it an epic ash can in the Devil's Cut, it had a bunch of stories in it, right? So basically were all the ash cans put together for all of their line. And you did read the opening act of Gone in that book. It was the one where the little girl was trying to provide for her family by jumping on a spaceship as it docked and before it left to try to like steal some food. And it looks like it's kind of the way the street urchins in her world deal with the fact that they don't have anything. So there must not be another very good way because, you know, her mom doesn't also try to prevent it. As that ash can kind of made you believe, she just barely gets off the ship in that part of the book. In this one, there's something that really bad happens, which means she doesn't make it off. So you can imagine now she's trapped on a ship going who knows where. And she doesn't have any family or anyone she knows. So it is part sci-fi, part, I don't know, kind of like encapsulated storyline where everything all happens, like there's nowhere to get out of. So, and by the way, there's also some maybe terrorist kind of group, which are also trying to like, you know, randomly blow up the ship. So rebels are afoot. I don't know if they're good guy rebels or bad guy rebels. They were just blowing things up. So it's really, really great. I love everything sci-fi. This one makes me very, very happy.
Okay. The elevator pitch on this one. If the Dread Pirate Roberts met Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer,
Ooh.
met, this is a hard one. It's essentially the Dread Pirate Roberts meets, like, kind of combined with Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, combined with kind of that last something magic from Valiant, where it was a team of people who were fighting demons, essentially.
Okay.
That's what this is. So there's this place called Edenwood that is a geographical location on a map. And it's sort of walled off from the world around it. Essentially, there's a gate, or there's a, you know, like a border.
Okay.
And this kid finds his way mistakenly across the border. And when you cross the border, you essentially step into a war between the demons who live in Eden World and the people who don't, trying to keep the demons inside. But in the first few minutes, he encounters this character on the cover who essentially is not a demon, but is working from inside Edenwood to keep the demons at bay. And he kind of tells the guy why he's there. He's looking for his girlfriend who got lost, and he thinks she got trapped in Edenwood, and he's there to hunt for her. And this guy, essentially, he's the paladin from the Dungeons and Dragons movie, right? Like, he walks in a straight line, even if there's a giant boulder in his way. Like, he's just kind of that guy, takes on this quest. Or at least that's what you think he's done.
Mm-hmm.
And what you find out is that the demons in this world take on all kinds of forms and are tricksters. So they'll have you think they're the pretty girl when in fact they're just going to devour your soul.
Nice.
And so it's kind of about that world and about living in that world. There is a big twist at the end that would make M. Night Shyamalan go, wait, what? So as you get 3/4 of the way through the book, slow down. Like if you're flying through this book, because it's not a small book either. It's more than regular 32 pages. But as you get 3/4 of the way through the book, slow down and start really paying attention, because when the twist hits, you're going to go, oh crap. Okay. I don't know what to do with that information, Tony Daniel. I guess we'll have to read issue 2. So there was a demon theme this week.
Yeah.
And these were some of the best looking demons I've ever seen in a comic book. Because they kind of look like spaghetti monsters.
Spaghetti monsters. Okay.
This is the one I had to add to my pull list last minute because I'm a schmuck.
Oh, you're a schmuck. Okay, Green Lantern, Alan Scott. There is a lot of reading in this book. I am not going to lie. It was a little overwhelming for me for how much like narration and text that goes on. But it essentially kind of jumps around in his timeline to explain his character, mostly in relationship to his significant other who is in the military with him, and all the complexities that brings to his life, and the Crimson Wave, is that what it's called? The beam?
Yeah.
The thing that turns, I think it's Crimson Wave. So funny. I say it and then I'm like, well, that sounds like a potty joke. But no, I think that's right. And how that came to be and how it affects his significant other also. It's like kind of one of those like great relationship books that also describes his, him dealing with the fact that Hoover basically is blackmailing him to get his act together and get with the JSA and do his job. But he's blackmailed him with a very specific picture. And that's rotten. But anyway, it's a really great book. It is not something you're going to breeze through. It's not something you're going to pick up and take like lightheartedly. It is really a lot of reading. So like get yourself like a hot cocoa and hunker down and actually enjoy it, because it's something to be like savored as a read instead of a let's get to a fight. Not that book.
Okay.
Robots.
Giant Robot Hellboy.
That's not fair, Spilios. Probably the Flash one that I read. Then this one, and then if there was another one, I don't remember it. So probably that's the last one, because
I don't know how to describe this book. Like, I've been thinking about it since I read it.
Are there any kaiju?
Yes.
Oh, and Sandman. Oh, yeah. My bad.
Hellboy is not central to this story, except that he is. Except that he isn't, because he's really kind of a passive character, and the robot Hellboy is the active character. But essentially what you have is you have some, you don't know if they're good guys or bad guys doing something to Hellboy and causing Hellboy to control giant robot Hellboy.
Okay.
And then he fights a Godzilla, basically. There's also a storyline about spiders that kill everything and a vault that's empty that's not supposed to be. But, like, the book doesn't feel cohesive to me. And, you know, maybe that's, again, reading it in PDF form and not in, you know, the actual pages laid out the way they're supposed to be. Or it's because, you know, trying to read 10 books in an afternoon, you miss some salient details that you would otherwise get if you were reading a little slower. The book doesn't feel cohesive. It feels like there's an A story, a B story, a C story, and they're not really connected. They just kind of are. And so I don't know what giant robot Hellboy has to do with this vault story, has to do with these spiders, even has to really do with the Godzilla thing. Like, it just, and then why does it have to be Hellboy? I don't fully understand it. So it'll be interesting to see where they go on this one. It just feels so disparate across the board that I kind of am just like, okay, it's Hellboy. It looks like Mignola. It feels like Mignola, but it doesn't feel like it's one thought. The equation I would make is if you listen to Scenes from an Italian Restaurant by Billy Joel, how it's really 3 different songs. That's what this feels like. It feels like 3 different comic books that they just jammed together into one. And they need to bring it together and meld it all together in the next issue.
That'd be good. Ah, the Greylock. Okay. I'm going to have to think here for a second because I remember reading it and thinking to myself that the Greylock essentially equates exactly to something else that I like a lot. Let me look at it 1 second because there were a lot of things with magic in them in mine this week. I was all magicked up. I should have taken notes. I was like, when I got my sleep, I can totally do it. It's no big deal. Oh, yeah. So he's essentially a vampire hunter. It is fully a there's a ton of not real creatures in there in the universe. So think like high fantasy but dark gritty, like Blade Runner kind of art. And it's a good start, but I will tell you that for me personally, since I'm not a high fantasy or even a low fantasy or any fantasy usual reader, there's some rare exceptions like White Ash. It's really great in art and really great storyline, but it's probably out of all the Scout this week, it wasn't my favorite of all of them. Put it that way.
Okay.
Hey, nice.
I think it's over. It's probably over. Can it please God be over?
Are you not a Trekkie in usual?
No, I can't stand Star Trek. But
Why don't you start this?
well, I made a conscious decision that I was going to read the Halloween themed, non-canonical books.
Okay.
Because there's something that's easy for somebody to pick up and find a universe they like. And if you like Star Trek, you can pick this up, and if it trips your trigger, then you're going to want to read the other Star Trek books. And I think that's valuable, especially for these seasonal runs. And I'll be honest, this was a lot of fun had it been anything other than weekly, I probably would have bailed out earlier. Had it been anything other than the Borg Collective, I probably would have bailed out earlier. But the number of factors it had going for it really did kind of bring me along. And it's been a fun book, but it feels like they're in places stalling for time. Like, oh, we have to do 5 issues, but we really only have 4 issues of story. So let's have a bunch of people sitting around a table talking for several panels. You know, it's like the trade the trade federation meetings in the Star Wars prequels. You're going, that's unnecessary. So, in this issue, we start to see they've figured out the holodeck situation, and it starts to become clear that what you thought was one group of Star Trek characters is actually multiple different groups from multiple different Star Trek iterations, which is actually super cool. And they've figured out how to sort of reverse the universal monsters of it all. But I don't know, because of, again, the way we have to read these books so fast, if they've solved it all and the Borg characters are just going to look like that now. Right? Because they're still a thing. Like, they're still universal monstery. So, but the Star Wars characters, like Worf as the Wolfman, have been corrected.
Oh, okay.
So if there is a 5th issue next week for Halloween, it'll be interesting to see how they tie it all up. If this is it, I think it was a fun little romp that did its time and got through it. And again, if you've been reading this book, especially on my recommendation, and it leads you to read further Star Trek's, then that's great, because people who like Star Trek really like Star Trek's comics. They seem to be very good. It's just not my star thing. So,
by the way, just as an aside, I finally remember what my brain connected it to. It's like a gorgeous Black Witcher. So if you like the Witcher storyline, you'll like the Greylock one.
Throw a dollar to your Greylock.
That's right. All right, Howie the Hellhound. This is a pretty straightforward story. Girl meets dog. Dog is Hellhound. Shenanigans happen. They get separated. Oh no, what next? So this one is the opposite of the one that I was talking about earlier that has way too many words. This one's a nice, easy, happy read with very cute hellhounds. And I'm interested to see what happens next. But yeah, if you like puppies that have red glowing eyes that can protect you when you're not paying attention, this is the one for you. Oh, and this one's so stinking good. Okay, so as always, Ice Cream Man, you don't need to have known anything else about any other issue. You can read sincerely any issue of Ice Cream Man at any time because they're all standalone stories. The only through line is that the Ice Cream Man is kind of like the crypt keeper or whatever. That's their role in the story, but they don't often he doesn't show up anymore usually. Like this one, he doesn't show up at all. He's mentioned once by name, but he's not in the story at all, despite the fact that he looks like he is there on the top. But the story is interspersed between stories that are starring the Figgy Bumps, which are those things on the front cover, which are terribly cute, and everything they say is peachy sweet and super cute. But also they go off to war, in which their most dangerous weapon is a marshmallow gun, and that could really lead to, like, they act like it's like destroyed humanity at one point or the other, having to use those. And so what you find out is this Figgy Bump story is copies of a comic book that this family is digging through their brother's house after he has passed. So this is his life's work, and they're kind of trying to figure out what to do with his things. But he was famous, super famous, for doing this storyline. So you get to get the enjoyment of reading, a through story about the Figgy Bumps. And that's delightful, but also the heart-crushing part about Ice Cream Man, which is the terrible tragedy that someone died and will never get to finish what they started. So it gives you the feels.
Okay.
More paladins? What's going on?
All right. Here's the elevator pitch for this. Randy Rhoads, the guitarist from Ozzy Osbourne's band, meets essentially the cast of Fraggle Rock. So if you know the story of Randy Rhoads, he died in a terrible plane crash. Same for this guy, except that instead of dying, he is saved by the people of the underground. They're called the Under People, and essentially they are the 7 dwarves, except there are far more dwarves, and they live in mushroom houses, and it's all this. It's everything you expect, but they exist for a couple of purposes: to torture humans. Like, they are the people who steal one sock out of your dryer. Or, they're the people who took the key you can't find.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see them destroying these keys and destroying these socks and, that kind of stuff. But they also serve to collect, almost like Warehouse 13.
Ooh.
Things on Earth that have been imbued with curses or negativity or something like that. So the reason he interacts with them is that the guitar that the musician he was with played was cursed, and that's why the plane crashed. And so we find he's not quite dead yet, and these people come to get the guitar, and they decide essentially to save him, and he becomes the Paladin of Axes. He was called that in life because he could make guitars do crazy things when he played them.
Okay.
And he's called that in death because he has to go and collect these things. That, one of them is a CPAP machine that has been cursed by harpies. Right. There's a level of comedy in this. It's written by Jerry Duggan, if that
perfect.
says anything.
Yes.
So it's got some real humor to it. And the names of these dwarves are he can't ever get them right. So they're always pee jokes, like Piddle Pants or, other things like that. They're not quite right names. It's a very fun book that also has a really cool, little not super spooky horror twist. That just winds up being a fun little romp.
I notice now that the eye on the paladin is a little
guitar pick.
Very cute.
Mm-hmm.
You say harpies or herpes? Oh my word.
Well, in this case, I'm not sure that what it was doing to the person it was on is any different.
Mm-hmm. All right. Mare Hollow, the Shoemaker, is a very trippy art style book. It's not quite the art style that's on the front because that makes it look like it's more spooky and Victorian than the inside is. Think a little more like early Mickey Mouse. That kind of looking stuff. Not as cartoony or Disney-ish, but just kind of that kind of rough look. It is about a shoemaker in this town who has just, I think it's mostly in his shop as people come in and have interactions with him. He seems to be the kindest person ever because he has a girl come in and be interested in buying a pair of shoes that she correctly guesses what kind she would like and size, and she tries them on, and she loves them except for her dress is red and she likes to have red shoes. So he says that he will make another pair for her in red. And in this case, he offers them to her for free. And of course, it's because I think because he likes her, because she's cute. And so it's kind of just like a fun, I'm sure that there's got to be something more to it than him always being super nice and making shoes for everybody and having really sweet interactions with, little widows that come in and those kinds of things. But it's delightful so far. I don't feel there's no like spooky, like how sometimes when you're watching something, there's spooky music. So you're like, oh, something bad's going to happen. I don't see any of that in here. So I'm not really sure where it's going. But so far, it's cute and fun.
It's weird that that's their response to that cover. Cute and fun.
Cute and fun. Oh, yeah. This was awesome. This is 3 stories for Marvel Zombies. There is, the first story is Daredevil based, in which basically they have him captured and are making him do kind of gladiatorial style fights and just basically eat people for sport. And it ends up having the Punisher in that storyline, and there's a big twist in it. There is a pretty straightforward Deadpool, and I forget what the last one is. There's got to be a Wolverine in there because it's got Wolverine on the cover. But they're all great stories. Good use of the fact that it's a black, white, and blood storyline. For fans of the original Marvel Zombies, before they kind of were just like making Marvel Zombies for any old reason, this will make you feel great about it again and happy about having spent money on this book.
Okay.
Jealous.
Don't be.
You still didn't get it? I know you read the second one because the first one you were like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, now I know.
No.
Well, no, I don't know. This issue really is just about the transport of peppers.
Oh.
Yeah. If they're not peppers, they never make it clear that they're not just talking about literally shipping peppers from one point to the other. I'll be honest, this is the first book I've ever read of Ram V's where I think I would tap out at this point. Now, I will say this. If this had come out a little closer to issue 1, where I could have remembered more of what happened in issue 1, this book may have had a different feel. And so maybe the answer here is to not buy it as single issues and to wait and buy the trade.
Maybe.
Because, Ram wrote it kind of in one long story as opposed to being broken up. But it doesn't feel like the first book. Like the first book, so much of the experiences and things happening, I could smell or I could hear. And that's not the case in this issue. And in this issue, it really is like, it almost feels like if Ram V was writing a Wes Anderson movie. They're just in the desert in a truck delivering peppers for 30 pages. Now, again, I will say, could it be peppers? Perhaps. But I got no way of knowing at this point.
Well,
and it just is.
He's not really what he seems to be either. So
right, he's not. But they don't address it at all. So if you've forgotten that he's not what he seems to be from the first issue to the second issue really is just about like, how do we get these peppers across the desert? It's way lower stakes, Smokey and the Bandit. And so, like I said, it's one of those that I think for me from here on out, I'll be waiting for the trade. just because I think reading it all in one sitting is going to serve this story a lot better than waiting 6 weeks.
I'm going to call it now. The peppers are souls.
Right. Or if they're human tongues, or there's a number of things they could be based on what we know from issue 1. But again, they don't remind you about issue 1 and issue 2.
So pull out your issue 1, read it first, and then read this one.
Well, that's exactly it. So like I said, I think it may be that the way it's being published and the speed at which it's being published is disserving the story.
Oh, this one is so tenseful. So much tense. So this one is a single shot from our friends at Comics Experience Publishing. It follows 2 what look like middle-aged women that are traveling to go. It's clear that one of them is a writer and has a manuscript that's due, and that they're going out here to the middle of nowhere cabin so that they can have quiet time and, have some hot cocoa and hang out together, but also just so that she can get all of her writing done.
Have they learned nothing from Stephen King?
Yeah, well, in this case, it's not that they're going to a cabin in the woods. As they pull up to the cabin, one of their mothers is there. And her mother is the most deplorable human being on the planet, who does nothing but berate her and yell at her as soon as she pulls up that there's no wood in the house, so they're probably all going to die. And I'm like, you didn't even know these girls were coming. You would have just died on your own, I suppose. So everything is confrontation, stress, stress. And the last page is very portentous, I'll say. It's really, really good. If you like feeling real tensed up, it's good.
Okay.
Is this another Hellfire car?
Huh?
Is this another Hellfire car?
No. The line I wrote in my brain for this book is that slow burn may in fact be a slow burn.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I don't know what happens in this book.
Ooh.
I read it and I don't know what happens in this book. There is a panel structure that I'm unaccustomed to. Like, I know what it is. It's 12 square panels across the page. There's a panel structure that I'm unaccustomed to. And so I think that may have hurt my comprehension. But the thing about this book is essentially that it's got that pilot syndrome of trying to tell you all the things you need to know without telling you anything that's going to be spoilery. But at the same time, in doing that, it's not telling you enough to make you care. Which is a tough position to be in as you're reading a book for review, right? But this is another kind of robbery story, people on the run story. And in this book, what you find out is that these people are the getaway drivers. They're getting away with the loot, but they don't even know what the loot is. And they come to a town that's on fire. Literally. The town is built on an anthracite coal mine that caught fire and has been burning for decades and will probably burn for another couple 100 years. So almost everybody has left. But they find these people there and wind up taking one of them hostage, and the other one sort of reveals to them what their loot is, and it's not at all what they had agreed upon. So they think they have cash, and what they have is a thing. And they are now run afoul of the gang they're a part of, who want the thing back. And at the same time, they've run afoul of the people they've stolen from. And they're in a town where, like, they can't even get gasoline. And they're like, how do we get out of here? Oh, and by the way, one of them is gut shot.
Ugh.
So it's like, what do you do when you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and the only thing you have to bargain with is $1 million thing?
It sounds a lot like Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies.
A lot less dead bodies in this one. Everyone's still alive so far.
You know I was going to have to read this. You know I was going to have to read this. Penguin's still doing his stuff, man. He's now decided, because, you know, he's on his tirade of in Zero, he was supposed to have been dead. Then he's come back. In number 2, he basically shows up at someone's mansion and kills basically everybody there because, you know, they're standing in the way of his power structure. And in this one, he's gone and found this defunct group of superheroes or supervillains. I am completely unsure because I don't know. The Force of July. And one by one needles them or strong arms them or beats them up or whatever to, you know, make them come on board to his organization because there's a problem that has been made by the main storyline that's going on in DC right now, which is the Gotham War, in which all of the real good goons have been retrained by the Catwoman to just be petty theft people and are no good for anything else because they realize that petty theft is fine. They don't get caught. No one comes after them. I know it's kind of like living in California right now. And this is an awesome series. If you have not jumped on to Penguin, you just want to try DC for the first time in your entire life, I promise you, you will love the whole series, as long as you're not afraid of, you know, a little violence and mean short men.
Oh, hey, this is a different cover than the one I had.
Hello, Pablo's just giving us really good, it's this meets that's over there in those comments.
Right. No, it's true. All right. Two Graves is a sort of twisted look at death. I don't know that I can explain, one, because this is a trade paperback, right? I don't know that I can adequately explain what's happening without spoiling anything. But essentially, there's a line from a show I've been watching lately that says, I don't know what happens when you die, but I'm pretty sure it's not just black. And that's kind of what this is exploring, is the multiple forms of death and the multiple ways we interact with it. So it's, you know, physical death, but it's also the death of a personality or the death of a passion or, you know, the kind of other sort of not corporeal deaths that people suffer. And then the way we as the living interact with the dead, be them human dead or corporeal dead, or be them with the things we used to be passionate about that we no longer are. I may be way off on my reading of this 126 pages in just under 35 minutes.
Wow.
But that's how it felt. And so I would just kind of, if you read the single issues, you know, and maybe didn't finish it, this is a great time to jump back in because, again, this is the trade that's out this week. So make sure you check that out.
Awesome. All right. The Prism. Okay. I am going to have to, I also had a lot of space books this week, so I'm off a look real fast so I don't give you weird reviews that are like, that wasn't what that book was about, Miss Jen, you dummy. I think this is the music one. This one was the coolest. Okay, so sci-fi at its awesomely best. So this one presents a very bleak future world in which it looks like in the ocean there's some kind of weird black ooze that they never really say what it is, what it does, why they're afraid of it, but it is clear from the storyline that they are using some kind of sonics to stop it, prevent it, its spread, or something. And they've been doing it what feels like for a really long time, because some of them are kind of like, we don't even care anymore. Just let it take us. And it actually shows what it looked like when it first arrived on Earth. It was just a little glob. They don't know where it came from. And this focuses in on, it's weird, there's a whole corporation that all they're doing is trying to get the very best musicians together to, it looks like, play over these gigantic speakers. And it affects this stuff somehow. It gives you just enough in this book to be like, I am super intrigued. They don't ever let you see this band play. They only see them get put together. It's so hard to describe it in a way that doesn't make it sound like it's real hokey, because it's not. It feels like, of course, this is the way we would handle this. I don't know how you would ever figure out that it would react to sound or that it was good to fix it. But this one is, I don't know. Ablaze keeps on making funky, fresh stuff that isn't like anything else you're reading. And I applaud them for that, because it's really hard in this day and age to find something that isn't like, oh, this is just like this means that. I can't tell you that this is anything plus anything. It's just cool sci-fi.
All right, we both read this one.
Oh, cool. You go first.
I made a comment earlier that I was excited to see how Tinian could mess up Dracula.
What are you doing?
Because I feel like Tinian is writing too much, and so he's not able to do anything to the quality of the things he used to do. Luckily, Universal Monsters and Dracula are real good bones.
Yep.
I can't tell you the last time I read the original Dracula story. But I think Tinian's take on it and Martin Simmons' art.
The art, yeah. The art is the character in here that's the best.
Really do a good job of sort of, I don't want to say modernizing, but for lack of a better term, modernizing Dracula. The character I found most interesting in this was Renfield. So I'll be interested to see what happens going forward. But, like, I don't know. I didn't feel like it was Nosferatu Dracula. I didn't feel like it was Universal Monsters Dracula. I felt like it was Tinian Dracula. But I don't feel like he took the amount of liberties I expected him to take.
Thing I had a hard time with in my brain is that Lucy and oh my gosh, my brain just stopped for the other character. Harker's future wife. Dadgummit.
Yeah, no, you said it, and I'm going, what's her name?
Anyway, they've switched the hair colors on them from what you saw in the movies Bram Stoker Dracula. So Lucy's the brunette, and I'm like, what? This doesn't make it. Thank you. And Mina's the blonde. I'm like, oh, my heart is just freaking out right now. But yeah, it's gorgeous, gorgeous art. You're gonna have a little time with that, like telling yourself which character's which.
For a page with James Tinian writing, for a book with James Tinian writing, there are way more pages than you would expect with just no dialogue.
It's true.
Where it's just art. And I think that in and of itself tells an important detail about this book, right? Like, it isn't just a James Tinian book. This is about the art, and James Tinian is just giving it framework, it feels like. So I don't know. Like I said, I just expect him to take more privileges.
Maybe later.
Maybe.
By the way, mad props to Pablo, who, I'm sorry, it makes it really hard to do reviews when you write so much funny stuff. And everybody else, it was super interactive. Thank you so much for being part of our family. And, it makes it so much, it's very rewarding to do these reviews when people come and actually, try to find things out about the books that are coming out this week.
It's true. And it's always super important for us guys, and I know I don't need to tell you, most of you, that you visit your local comic shop. If you don't know where there's a local comic shop nearby to you, head over to comicshoplocator.com. Type in the area code where you are, and it will tell you where there are comic shops nearby to you. And then visit there and buy, Drive Like Hell or The Prism or Dracula. And spend even $5, an extra $5, a person there could be a huge deal. What did I say? Area code, zip code? It doesn't matter. Type in the thing that it asks for.
And it's important more than ever, y'all, because I've been surprised a lot recently where there's stores that they don't just help us, we're in trouble. They just put up a notice that say they're done. So just make sure you're supporting your favorite third place because you need it around.
Right. No, it's we're gonna lose. Yeah, thank you, Chesney. We're gonna lose more comic shops this year than we've lost any other year, including the pandemic. So if you can visit a local comic shop and just spend a few dollars, it helps a ton.
Or share their social media if you don't have any dollars, that works just as well.
Yep. Share. So, for Miss Jen, I've been Kyle. Thank you to Jay for putting the PowerPoint together and pressing the buttons. And I expect you to read some books next week, dude. And we will see everybody next time.
Thanks, y'all.